annual Munich Security Conference begins tomorrow at a time of considerable global uncertainty and heightened anticipation. We do not expect dramatic decisions to be taken there, but this Bavarian city has long served as a stage where new narratives emerge and strategic signals are being sent. Vladimir Putin's 2007 speech and J.D. Vance's address during the 2025 version of this forum are notable examples of that sort of signaling power. This year's gathering unfolds amidst evolving US foreign policy dynamics, renewed regional sensitivities and sensibilities, and following the recent high-profile visit of US Vice President J.D. Vance to Yerevan and Baku, a trip that resulted in new agreements and further institutionalization of US engagement in the South Caucasus. But joining me now in the studio to discuss this very matter and many other related matters is Executive Editor-in-Chief of the Liberal Media, Artur Bloch. Artur, welcome to the studio. Thank you very much.
I'm always happy to be here, Orhan.
Artur, we're going to have a very wide discussion.
Yeah.
But first things first, let's talk about the Munich Security Conference. As I mentioned during my introduction, Vladimir Putin's famous speech back in 2007, that was the beginning of a shift in terms of Russian foreign policy. Yeah. We remember what J.D. Vance said last year. He effectively accused all European countries effectively for not being European enough, betraying their own traditions and so forth.
And he was right. I mean, J.D. Vance.
And what do you expect from this year?
Delivered a bombshell speech last year, saying basically, well, Europe, you're heading into the wrong direction. Yeah. Your continent is flooded by migrants. You're losing your own culture, and you're depending on us for your security. You're not spending enough money on defense.
Yes.
And this is beautiful. This is one of these podia.
That's what he said last year.
Yeah.
Right? What about this year?
This year must be. I think they will continue on this path. If you look what happened in the past year, we will discuss it later, of course. But Europe is being prepped for a danger. Some countries, Russia's pointed at that as the danger for the security of Europe, and the European countries, the globalist government there, the radical left that is basically, with the exception of Hungary and Italy, basically everywhere in charge, is prepping its civilians for more taxation to spend more on defense. And that's also the agreement that Trump announced a couple of months ago. Said, look, Europe, if you want to play with the big boys, you have to spend more money. I mean, and NATO plays also a role in that, of course. The new Secretary General, Mark Rutte, is already, preaching danger. Be careful, we need to spend more. And it has many layers, and I think security will on top of the agenda, and also freedom of speech. You basically being censored. A lot of platforms are being censored. If you're based in Europe, you can expect a call from the police or somebody knocking on your door and say, "Oh, you said that online."
So defense, security, freedom of speech, and many other related matters. More specifically about security, we remember President Donald Trump's speech at Davos just months ago, which was a clear indication of transatlantic further rupture. I mean, rupture happened a long time ago. We all know that. Yeah. And basically, the key parameters of this rupture are based on the idea that US is not going to be as helpful, as supportive of Europe as it was in the past. Yeah. And the shift from the Atlantic sphere to the Pacific. China is the main enemy. Russia is not being perceived as a key enemy, and Europe should be able to sort out its own affairs by means of its own internal resources. Yeah. What do you expect from this Munich Security Conference?
Well, you forgot one important thing in Davos, that Trump launched his Board of Peace, where he said basically all our old institutions are worthless. The United Nations Security Council is bankrupt, and we're going to do it the Trump way. We do it, let's say, in a more pragmatic way, simplified. Yes. If you want to, like George Bush said, either you're with us or you're against us.
Do you think the days of the UN are numbered?
Yeah, I think they are in deep.
What do you make of the Board of Peace? Is it do you imagine Board of Peace?
It's a fresh initiative.
Fresh initiative. Yeah. Do you think everybody is saying? I mean, allow me to refer to the President of Finland. What he said. He said that back in 1945, when the UN was effectively created, it was created in the image of the Western civilization, in the image of United States, Britain, France, and two other countries, not Western countries, but part of the wider equilibrium. But that world that was in existence back then is no longer here. The new world has emerged, and this Board of Peace perhaps could be part of that reality. He did not make a specific reference to the Board of Peace, but he said that new world order will need to take into account the interests of global South countries.
Yeah, but don't forget also, Orhan, that the United Nations Security Council has proven to be incapable of solving any major crisis. Of course, it is an old institute where some states have, the permanent members have a veto right,
Yes.
which is outdated. That means that even the whole world says we have to go right, and well, one country says, oh no, I don't agree, and then it doesn't happen. And you have it's too symbolic, basically. You have always the Secretary General who condemns crisis over the world, but it doesn't get any further than that. And Trump has proven, basically, that his way, the Trump way, so to say, that is, we're going to do this.
Would you say that Trump way is a new American way? Because
Yeah, I mean, more or less, in a way, if you look at what happened in Venezuela.
and what is happening now, Arthur,
yeah.
is going to be irreversible in the fullness of time.
Definitely. It is it's beginning of a new order, you could say. And there's a lot of resistance, of course, from the United Nations and in the European Union, which is an undemocratic institute enforced upon the people of Europe. That is also outdated, with a parliament that has no power, basically, and a self-appointed commission. A lot of things are happening right now, and then maybe it's supposed to happen in this way. So it's like a wake-up call. So guys, what you are doing is definitely not
Talking about
the
a
right way
wake-up call,
forward.
we have different platforms around the world.
Yeah.
We talked about President Donald Trump's speech in Davos.
Yeah.
And Munich is a completely different sort of, it's different to Davos. Davos is about global elites, it's about the convergence of geopolitics and geoeconomics, whereas Munich is different. It's largely centered on security, policy, and many other related matters. And your media, Liberum Media, the Liberum Media, where you happen to be executive editor-in-chief, prides itself and advocates for what you call unapologetic truths, and also you talk about defying the ordinary. I think, if I'm
correct,
right.
that's very good.
Could you please reflect on the Munich Rule, which says that engage and don't lecture? What do you make of it?
We hold up a mirror in front of conflicts all around the world, and unapologetic means that we bring raw news.
Yeah.
And we do not abide by rules of the mainstream media.
What is the unapologetic truth about Munich Security Conference?
For example, when the crisis occurred in Ukraine and Russia, we are not against Russia because everybody is, or everybody tells you that we have to be. We're not pro-Ukraine. We just look at the absurdity of such a crisis. And that also goes for the United Nations Security Council, the crisis in Syria, what's happened in Venezuela. We always try to find our own way to show to people, look, no matter what they are saying, this is how we see it.
And okay, if you mentioned about Russia, if you refer to Russia-Ukraine conflict, what is your unapologetic truth about that conflict?
Well, that it's not so black and white as it's being presented in the media in the past 5 years. It is. I mean, the media at the moment, the mainstream media, especially in Europe and America, has a very short-term memory. They just like to look at what happened in the past years, but it's a conflict that is there for a long time. It starts at the fall of the, let's say, the end of the Cold War, the promises that were made, guarantees that were given to Russia, and now Ukraine is being, I said Zelensky today has set on the deadline when he can join the European Union. I mean, it's absurd. I mean, the whole idea of Ukraine is that it's more like a buffer zone between two former power blocks. Like you have NATO on the one side, it's already expanded to the east, but was already agreed that was never supposed to happen. And then, like Ukraine was like the last drop, and then of course there had a lot of things happen. New president all of a sudden came. A lot of Russian strongholds in Ukraine were bombed for years. Nobody had paid attention to that. So a lot of things happened before the war erupted, and well. It is not so. It's not like you can say, well, Russia is wrong and Ukraine is right.
I want to hear out of your specific reflection on the Munich Rule, to which I want to make a clear reference. The website of Munich Security Conference says that the entire event of Munich Security Conference 2026 and all its many components will be governed by Munich Rule. And Munich Rule is engage and interact with each other. Don't lecture or ignore one another. It sounds like in line with your principle.
Beautiful.
What is your unapologetic truth about this rule? That's my question.
Well, let's see what happens on the sidelines of such a conference. I mean, last year when Vance held his bombshell speech, people were so offended, and all the media in Europe they spoke not about what he said, but the way he said it. They were like unpleasantly surprised that there was an American vice president that dared to basically, held up a mirror in front of them and said, look, this is how you guys are behaving. You're walking to a trap. If you do not turn 180 degrees your policies, then this is the end of Europe as you know it. And I think that it will continue on that line, especially security. If you see what happened in the world the past 12 months, Venezuela, South America, the threat of Iran, and Syria, Lebanon, it is like tuck, tuck, tuck. It goes so fast. It's almost impossible to understand what's.
Let's walk through the key agenda items. Syria. There's a huge support for Syria from the United States, from Turkey. Azerbaijan is also supportive enough, but not as central as Turkey and some other countries, of course. But your recent article on Syria has attracted some attention, some considerable attention. And you remain very skeptical about the administration led by Ahmad al-Shara.
Of course, because this administration, I will tell you why. They're not in control. It's like a symbolic government or a bunch of crooks that took over and said, now we are, and all of a sudden he is the savior of Syria. He's not in control. Turkey plays an important role. And then there's the Kurdish, let's say, dilemma.
Yeah.
That is not that geopolitical. We have, of course, it depends on, there's in Iraq, there's in Iran. Everything is basically on hold in Syria right now. And let's not forget the atrocities that happened against the Alawites and the Druze. And I mean, Israel has a certain interest. For Lebanon, it's not a very pleasant status quo at the moment, because you have a radical Sunni regime basically taking over.
I want to understand
So it's difficult to understand because a lot of interest on the ground decide what's going to happen, and at this moment everything is on hold. Nothing really happens, and the fact that it's out of the news, we don't see it in the newspaper anymore right now, doesn't mean that it's peace or that things are solved. Things are on hold, just waiting what's going to happen.
Your inherent skepticism of Ahmad al-Shara, his government, is it related to his past?
Yeah, of course.
Or is it related, but everybody is capable of being reformed under the right circumstances. Many religious radicals turned out to be sensible politicians under the circumstances.
Don't forget that this is not like a diplomatic man. He comes from militia.
Well, he's not bound to be diplomatic. He's bound to be competent.
They were rapists, they were murderers, they have blood on their hands.
But they were murders.
The guy he conquered with the help
there were murders before December 2024.
Yeah, but what has happened in the past, look, let's judge him what has happened in Syria in the past year alone. Massacres. Everywhere. No, really, massacres. I don't know if you've seen the images of what happened to the Alawites.
Awful.
And it's awful. I mean, and what happened to the Druze, but basically, he's not in charge. So he's a puppet that can play basketball with and show some nice images to the world. And Trump can say, oh, really, he's a nice guy. Well, okay, I don't agree with you, President Trump. He is definitely not a nice guy.
All the major sanctions put in place against Syrian government have been lifted, which is very good. Turkey is incredibly supportive.
Depends on how you look at it.
STF issue is has not been resolved yet, but it is being resolved. The Kurdish language declared as an official language of the state, but the integration of that region, northwestern region of Syria, into the state is happening, and we know that there is Israeli influence on Druze communities and so forth.
Yes.
It's not as bad as it could have been.
Well, the Druze, let's say the Kurdish issue, as to say, it's like a sword of Damocles that hangs above that part of the world. I mean, these people want their own state. Now, Turkey definitely doesn't want that to happen. They have some autonomy in northern Iraq. There is a threat of war with Iran. It's going to happen. There's a massive buildup of American troops in the region.
Yes.
And so sooner or later that's going to happen. These talks are with Iran, just for the show. I expect in the coming weeks we will see some developments on that front, and then what is going to happen? Nobody really knows. And the Kurds in northeast Syria, their only goal is to have their own state. So this is basically a conflict that is put on
Do you believe they should be able to have their own state?
It's not what I think about it. They are convinced that they should have their own state. And they're also a people without a country.
Yeah.
And that.
But not all people.
And it was similar. It was something. If you do not solve that, Orhan, it's going to be a problem forever, and that needs to be addressed.
And that naturally needs to be addressed, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there should be a separate Kurdish state carved out of Syrian territory.
Listen, I'm not an expert on the Kurdish matter, but I think that this is what they want. I know I've spoken to many in Europe, dissidents who are living in Europe, and that is their agenda.
Right.
Now, they can declare otherwise, they can make coalitions with the Americans, it's not really relevant. In the end, that also needs to be addressed. If you want to have stability in that part of the world, that needs to be addressed
Addressing
properly.
that matter does not necessarily mean letting that entity, SDF, to create a state.
Of course
It could be part of Syria, and that seems to be the key sentiment pervading.
Because that will mean that there will be a whole new power block emerging in that part of Syria and Iraq and Iran. That is we're talking about millions of people, and that's something that I think.
You talked about J.D. Vance's famous bombshell speech delivered last year. It starts tomorrow, of course, and
you're going to be there.
But I'm going to be here. I'm traveling this morning. Tomorrow morning, first thing in the morning. Basically, probably he's going to deliver another very, very important.
I'm looking forward to
speech. But he was in Azerbaijan, and Armenia, Azerbaijan earlier. Well, relations with Armenia are improving. The nuclear agreement was signed with Azerbaijan. Now officially, Azerbaijan and the United States are strategic partners. Charter was signed. It's very important. Timing is very interesting. Let me just...
The timing is very delicate, yes, definitely.
I want to specifically ask about the timing. So back on the 8th of August, when President Aliyev and Pashinyan signed the joint declaration and initialed the peace agreement in the presence of Donald Trump, and back then Azerbaijan and US signed memorandum of understanding on the creation of the working group on the strategic charter, and it was natural that high-ranking official from the United States visited this region. It should have happened at some point, but again, timing is incredibly interesting. Developments in Iran are happening, and there's a talk of pinpoint US strikes aimed at that country.
Of course.
Azerbaijan is recalibrating and increasing its strategic autonomy. Armenia is actively talking about leaving the organization, the military bloc,
with the European Union,
collective security treaty organization, basically. What do you make of the timing?
Well, this is one of these, let's say, supporting visits where America shows to Armenia and Azerbaijan, look, you guys, you're still important to us. I mean, Russia is not happy with it. It's another, let's say, signal to Moscow. Say, look, don't think that you can ever get back on your influence of these countries. We are here now, and they're going to do it our way. It is not only strategic; it's also it gives like a moral boost to say, well, we still matter. Nobody talks about what happened last year anymore. And there's a peace treaty. Things are going well. Negotiations are quite positive, as I understand. And of course, J.D. Vance was also here to update what's going to happen.
Yeah.
What do you think? Don't be naive. This is definitely
one of the remarks made by J.D. Vance during that brief press briefing with President 12 minutes long, I think, with President Aliyev, was that there's only one person other than President Donald Trump all around the world who has good relations with Turks and Israelis, and that's President Aliyev. What do you make of this statement?
Okay, Trump wants to be recognized in the world as the president of peace, solving conflicts, and that's what he basically have been doing in the past 12 months. It's impressive. If you like the man or not, he did a lot of things that people would have deemed impossible like months before he started his presidency. Now, this is part of it. So this is just a preparation for countries to join the Abraham Accords, to sign up a peace agreement with Israel. Also, Saudi Arabia is on the agenda. It's all connected, Orhan. So it would not be surprised. Trump said 2 days ago in a speech, we're going to have more countries joining the Abraham Accords very soon. Sooner than you think. That's what he said. So this is all part of that. So you guys solve your issues. You invest in each other, open new infrastructure, the railroad, everything, and then you're ready for the next level, and that means peace. And Trump wants recognition, so he takes it very personal. And I like that about him. And at least he's a guy, a president, I have to say, who delivers upon his promises. He said this is on top of the agenda, and you
earlier talked about Russia, about the way Russia treats more intense and wide-ranging US engagement in the South Caucasus. There's a case against certain individuals here in Azerbaijan. The indictment has been filed, and those accused individuals are those individuals who are implicated in allegations involving seizing power forcibly, retaining it, and also forcibly changing the constitutional structure of the country.
That's a very serious accusation.
The very serious accusations. The trial has yet to take place, and basically at this very stage, legally, it's only allegations and claims, but it's very serious. And Azerbaijan's State Security Service today announced officially about those individuals and the list of accused and so forth. This particular case, without going into the merits of the case because it's not your expertise, very clearly there is a particular lens. It's Russia meddling in internal affairs of Azerbaijan by means of using individuals within the country in order to keep this country under control. How dangerous is this situation, and to what extent do you think this country and other countries will be able to resist this particular intentions coming from there?
Russia is losing a lot of influence in the region, and I think this is part of them showing that we can still do things, and that it was foiled, their attempt, that basically says enough. So they are losing basically all their influence, and using people to have coup d'etat, or this is very serious. So, and I don't know if they are guilty or not. I don't know the fine details of the case.
The court will determine, of course.
Yeah, but in the end, treason is the worst crime you can be accused of.
Yes.
And I'm going to watch it closely what's going to happen.
Thank you very much, Artur. So grateful to you for your time. Yes. And hopefully next time we'll discuss a wide range of issues, and we'll be able to build on some of the arguments expressed during this conversation.
Thank you, Orhan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I've just conversed with Artur Blok, Executive Editor-in-Chief of the Liberum Media. We discussed a wide range of issues centered around the 62nd Munich Security Conference, expectations enveloping that particular platform, which is not a decision-making platform, but a platform during which many narratives are emerging and many power signaling are being sent. Well, you've been watching Context, and see you soon.